Most men believe they lose a woman because they said the wrong thing, a message sent too fast, a joke that didn't land, a moment of weakness that ruined everything. That belief is comforting, because it makes the failure sound technical, fixable, almost innocent. But the truth is darker. You didn't lose her with your words. You lost her before your mouth even opened. You lost her in the way your body entered the moment, in the tension stored in your jaw, in the shallow breathing that betrayed urgency, in the shoulders pulled slightly forward, as if asking permission from reality, in the eyes that searched for approval while the lips pretended confidence, in the micro-speed of your movements, too alert, too careful, too available. Your voice spoke calm, your nervous system screamed need, and she felt the contradiction instantly, not logically, not consciously, but biologically, because the error was never verbal. It was energetic. And today you are going to see the mechanism behind that error. Not a trick, not a technique. A silent law that governs desire beneath language. Once you perceive it, you'll understand why some men seduce with an ease that feels illegal. Before we go deeper, I want you to answer this in the comments with brutal honesty, not performance. What was the exact moment in your life when you felt a woman emotionally pull back, silently, even though you had done everything right? Not a heroic story, not an excuse, just the precise moment when something invisible shifted and you couldn't explain why. The invisible failure. Nobody teaches you to see. There is a type of man who almost never fails in effort, and yet almost always fails in outcome. He responds quickly, explains thoroughly, clarifies everything, soothes tension before it fully forms, adapts before he even knows whether adaptation was required. He doesn't beg on his knees, but his energy kneels first. His body is always slightly ahead of his center. His breathing shortens in moments of uncertainty. His words multiply when silence would be stronger. His posture shifts depending on her reaction. His emotional state becomes a mirror instead of a foundation. What he transmits without noticing is a single message: I am afraid to lose you. And that fear, even when never spoken, is fatal. Because attraction rarely dies from mistakes, it dies from loss of axis. A woman does not lose interest because a man is imperfect. She loses interest when she senses that he no longer belongs to himself, when he reacts more than he chooses, when he adjusts more than he leads, when his emotional climate depends more on her responses than on his internal command. And this erosion doesn't happen dramatically. It happens in drops, a pause held too weakly, a gaze that checks instead of observes, a message sent too soon, a justification offered before it was requested, a subtle contraction in the chest when silence appears, till one day there is nothing special left to feel, only familiarity, only predictability, only comfort. And in the realm of desire, comfort is a slow execution. Where everything quietly reverses, the average man believes seduction is an action. The strategic man understands seduction is a position. It's not about approaching, it's about from where inside you the approach originates. It's not about speaking, it's about which internal center your words emerge from. Inside every man, there is a point that determines everything: his direction. When direction is firm, presence gains weight. When direction is weak, presence becomes vapor. And life, including women, does not respond to vapor. It responds to weight. Weight is not aggression, it's not arrogance, and it's not emotional coldness. Weight is when you occupy your place without needing permission, when you don't chase confirmation, when you don't accelerate to prove worth, when you don't justify before being questioned, when you don't collapse into reaction. This creates a silent psychological phenomenon. People start orienting themselves around you, not because you push, but because coherence pulls. Modern neuroscience already observed something strange. The human brain reads stable calm as a signal of status. Not morally, not socially, biologically. And centuries before machines could scan brains, the Stoics already knew, he who cannot command himself will always be commanded by others. This is not motivational language, it is nervous system law. When the man returns to his center, when a man stops acting to impress and starts acting to hold his internal axis, something strange begins to happen. His rhythm slows without becoming lazy. The world around him seems to speed up, not him. His pauses become dense, his words become fewer, but every word carries direction. He no longer looks to check if he is liked. He looks to perceive. He no longer enters asking silently for approval. He enters as someone who already belongs. And here the great paradox appears. The moment a man stops trying to be desirable, he becomes dangerous to desire, not through manipulation, not through strategy, but because his center moved back inside himself. The nice guy trap. Nobody wants to name the nice guy is always available, always responsive, always understanding, always validating, always emotionally present, and without realizing it, he fades. He creates no tension, no uncertainty, no emotional polarity, no gravitational pull. He offers stability without charge, presence without pressure, company without danger, and danger, in the psychological sense, is the oxygen of desire. Where there is no tension, there is no fire, only warmth. What Machiavelli was really pointing at, Machiavelli never spoke about romance. He spoke about perception, about dominance of impulse, about invisible influence. He understood that the man who cannot govern his own internal turbulence cannot govern anything external. And seduction plays by the same rules. The man who rushes loses. The man who explains too much loses. The man who enters with need loses. The man who reacts before choosing loses, not because he is weak, but because he surrendered his center. And when you surrender your center, everything else owns you. The deadliest error. Almost no man detects the greatest mistake is not appearing insecure. It is operating from insecurity without perceiving it. It shows up like this. You over-explain. You preempt misunderstandings. You scan her reactions constantly. You change posture based on micro-approval. You reshape your tone to please. You measure your worth by her response speed. This is not strategy. It is dependence in disguise. And dependence is the fastest poison of desire. The birth of the man who leads to lead is not to impose. It is to maintain direction while others fluctuate. The man who leads does not chase signals, he generates them. He does not beg for validation. He renders it irrelevant. He does not hunt attention. He creates conditions where attention appears. And he does not do it with force. He does it with internal coherence. His words do not fight his body. His body does not contradict his intention. His silence does not betray his eyes. Everything points in one direction, and that alignment produces a rare effect in the observer. Stability without rigidity, calm without passivity, firmness without aggression. That is silent authority. And silent authority is the first pillar of seduction that feels illegal. The hidden principle. While the average man tries to be liked, the strategic man holds his axis. While one pursues, the other allows tension to do the work. While one trembles with every message, the other breathes the same with or without response, and that single difference changes everything. Because seduction is not decided in what is said. It is decided in who depends on whom emotionally. The quiet point of no return. There comes a moment when something reverses. You're no longer the one waiting for signals, no longer the one seeking confirmation, no longer the one asking permission. Now she is the one observing, measuring, becoming curious about your silence. Because your calm created a vacuum, and the mind is irresistibly drawn to what it cannot easily read. What effortless seduction really means. It does not mean convincing. It means not needing to convince. It does not mean controlling. It means not being controlled by your reactions. It does not mean manipulating. It means protecting your internal center inside the dynamic. That is why it feels illegal, because the construction is invisible. Only the results are visible. Up to now, one truth has become unavoidable. Seduction does not begin in the woman. It begins in your internal position toward life. But this is only the foundation, because there is still the most dangerous mechanism of all left unseen, the one that transforms stability into active desire, the one that converts emotional control into silent obsession, the one that makes your absence weigh more than the presence of others. That mechanism has nothing to do with surface mystery. It has everything to do with emotional rhythm, and it is there, where seduction stops looking normal and starts feeling illegal. The reactive man always runs after other people's time. He responds when he is called. He speeds up under pressure. He destabilizes under silence. He aligns emotionally with the temperature of whoever is in front of him. He becomes a satellite, orbiting someone else's gravity. The man who leads does not oppose, does not resist, does not flee. He simply maintains his own internal pulse even when everything outside vibrates. He does not accelerate when she accelerates. He does not freeze when she freezes. He does not destabilize when she hesitates. And that coherence creates a brutal contrast, because the nervous system seeks patterns. And when it finds one that does not collapse under pressure, it interprets it as structure. Structure generates safety. Safety generates attraction that goes beyond impulse. The neurodynamics of silent investment. When a woman perceives that your emotional state does not oscillate with hers, something activates inside her beyond conscious intention. The instinct of investment. Questions begin to form inside her. Why doesn't he react like the others? Why can't I easily shake him? Why doesn't he look for reassurance? What holds this man together internally? And when the mind begins to seek answers, it is already emotionally engaged. Not because you pulled, but because your stability opened a space she wants to understand. That is real emotional dominion, not control over her, but total command over yourself. The man who does not disintegrate. The Machiavellian man applied to seduction is not cold. He is centered. He does not suppress emotion. He administers it. He does not deny desire. He governs it. He does not surrender to impulse. He channels it. That makes him dangerous in the most refined sense, because he is not chaotic, and he is not predictable. He is internally stable, externally unreadable. That equilibrium shatters every common formula. The moment she falls without deciding to. There is an invisible instant when she stops evaluating whether she is attracted to you and starts feeling she doesn't want to lose you. It doesn't happen because of a kiss. It doesn't happen because of a compliment. It happens when she notices that your world does not orbit hers, when she realizes your life still has weight even without her presence, when she senses your emotional climate does not depend on her messages, when she discovers she cannot easily manipulate your state. That is when something deeper than interest is born, emotional respect. And respect is the bedrock of lasting attraction. The final mistake of the common man. Just when a woman begins to invest emotionally, the common man commits his ultimate error. He breaks his own axis. He accelerates. He overshares. He exposes prematurely. He becomes predictable. He tries to secure. And in doing so, he kills tension. Because attraction does not die from closeness. It dies from absence of polarity. The strategic man, in contrast, does not intoxicate himself with the moment. He remains. And that permanence transmutes curiosity into depth. The ancient Stoics never tried to control others. They pursued something far more demanding, to never be controlled internally. Machiavelli later translated this into the language of power. He who cannot govern his inner world will always be hostage to reaction. This is not advice. It is law. The truth, no one says out loud. Now we arrive at the hidden truth beneath the title. Seduction that feels illegal is not manipulation. It is something very few men are willing to develop because it requires real discipline, emotional command, internal direction, strategic communication, presence without hunger, psychological autonomy. When these align inside a man, something inevitable happens. He no longer needs to pursue desire. Desire begins to pursue alignment, not because he is flawless, but because he is internally integrated. And internal integration is the rarest aphrodisiac in a world filled with fragmented men. The definitive revelation, the real trick behind seducing so easily it feels illegal, is not what you do to her. It is what you stop doing to yourself. You stop chasing. You stop rushing. You stop justifying. You stop adapting out of fear. You stop begging for emotional permission. And when that happens, something reorganizes internally. your center returns. From that place, every movement carries weight, every word has trajectory, every silence generates tension, every absence has presence. Seduction ceases to be an effort. It becomes a side effect of identity. This is the irreversible transformation, from the anxious man to the centered man, from the reactive man to the man who chooses, from the man who asks to the man who receives, from the man who chases to the man who orients. Once this shift occurs, you do not return to who you were, because a man who governs his inner world can never again belong to chaos. And if, at some point in this process, you decide to go deeper into this internal architecture, not as motivation but as reprogramming, then you will eventually encounter a system, not a promise, not a trick, a method of internal dominion. But until that moment arrives, the law remains active. Whoever governs his emotional center governs the entire game without touching the board.